Lucy fans, welcome to a brand new Lucifer kind of update video, as well as towards the end of this video I'm going to go over some new theories because, hey, there's quite a few exciting things that got left off at the end of Season 5 Part 1, and since then a lot of fans have been speculating about God, with certain characters finding out other than just Dan this season, in terms of who Lucifer really is, and just a whole bunch in terms of how things could definitively end. But the new stuff is very interesting as well, because recently there's been some new information regarding that Season 5 finale rewrite. Because don't forget that Season 5 was advertised and meant to be the definitive 5th and final season before Netflix swooped in and was like, hey, by the way, Season 6... So let's first talk about the finale rewrite, because as I kind of just said, I have been talking about this for quite a while, and how it was supposed to be that final ending for the show that would just cap everything off. So from the words of Detective Douche himself, Kevin Alejandro, he spoke to metro.co.uk and kind of revealed the cast's reaction and his own reaction to what was going on with that, and just how the final episode is kind of being changed up just a little bit. So he went to say that all of us went into it, Season 5 that is, and continued throughout the journey up until the episode before the last one, quite literally thinking that this was our series finale, that this Season 5 was the show finale. You can tell, I think, just even though the scripts and through the episodes, that they didn't hold anything back, they were just pushing forward. Everyone was under that impression until a couple of months before we ended the season, and then Netflix changed their mind, so it sort of threw us all for a loop. We were like, shoot, where do we go from here? We've already invested, we've thrown every freaking trick in the book towards ending the show and trying to give everyone the kind of ending that it deserves, and where do we go from here? How do we? But obviously we're all super excited, just surprised. And yeah, that is, I think, what a lot of fans' reactions were, mine included. And I kind of feel sorry for them, because they were giving, I mean, as they should, they're actors, they're meant to pour their heart into it, but it's just kind of crazy. A 5th and final season, imagine if you put yourself in the shoes of being one of these actors on Lucifer, you're giving it your all, the episodes are orchestrated in such a way for it to end, and you're expecting it to end until a week before the last episode being filmed, you find out, oh, it's not ending here. You've got a whole other season. That's actually just crazy. So as a result of that, as we know, the writers' room had to make some pretty big tweaks to the finale in order to pave a way forward for the whole entire new season, of which, I think, personally, in my opinion, should be 10 episodes. Not 16 like Season 5, which I don't have a problem with, but since we're getting an extension on what was meant to be the definitive ending, I think that they shouldn't drag that out too much to avoid any kind of milking it effect. And I think Season 4 having 10 episodes on Netflix was pretty good for that. It felt even more so main plot driven than even Season 5 is right now, but I'm not, no knocking on Season 5's pacing, because I really enjoyed that myself. But bottom line here for me, considering the rewritten finale of Season 5 was meant to be it for Lucifer, Season 6 should probably go with, scale it back from 16 to 10. It just feels like a better send-off. I feel like 16 would really potentially drag it out unless the writers' room have really come up with some kind of mind-blowing extension onto the already existing plot they had to finish the show. Now, as for those tweaks for Season 5, Kevin Alejandro obviously didn't get into them because spoilers, but assures everyone that it will be worth it. Now, he goes on to say, having conversations with the writers now, or how they're going to bring it back to Season 6, they had to make some tweaks to our season finale. I didn't think they could. I think they didn't think they could do it, but lo and behold, they figured out a really cool way to excel through Season 6. Now, that is kind of reassuring, but at the same time, I do want to just say, like, he's a part of the show, of course, he's going to be quite the advocate for it. Imagine if he just came out and said, yeah, I think they might be milking it. I'm hopeful they'll write something, but that will not feel like it's being dragged out, but he's not going to say that regardless. Showrunners, if you've watched any clips with them, their first response to when Netflix said, hey, we're giving you another season, they were like, no, we're not doing it. Like, we can't. But then when they found a way, apparently, like, they were like, okay, this actually might work. So that does give me some trust. You know, Lucifer is a great show. As far as mistakes go with this show, I don't feel like they've done really too many at all, apart from season 3 being extremely dragged out. But that was, you know, going back to network television. And if you know a bit about that, you know, the TV shows on networks do drag it out to 22 episodes typically, because you get more adverts in more slots on TV. Usually a consequence of that is kind of dragged out seasons with filler episodes and the main plot starting at, like, I don't know, episode 3, and then that main plot being picked up at episode 7. You know, it's not always like that, whereas now it's on the streaming service such as Netflix. It's like main plot, maybe a little bit of cool filler, but I'm not opposed to that at all, because we just got all that main plot, and then main plot. So you get my point, and that kind of re-emphasizes my point on why season 6 should be 10, because I can't imagine the writers' room have come up with enough fuel for 16 episodes, but you never know. Bottom line here for me, I do kind of trust what he's saying there. If he's saying they found a way to excel throughout season 6, then fair enough. And I just can't wait to see, you know, what it's going to be. But let's get on to the season 5 Part 2 release date. So as for all of this, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware, Lucifer in his production, season 5, was shut down practically like every other movie or show production out there. However, Lucifer was on his last episode of season 5, the finale. But the great news is Lucifer is reportedly scheduled to head back to production on the season 5 finale towards the end of this month on September 24th. The production would also transition straight into the filming for season 6 as well, which is really, really awesome. However, I do want to stress though, just like, you know, what happened with Robert Pattinson recently on the set of The Batman, like literally The Batman had only resumed filming for 3 days, having just been on a big break. It turned out that Robert Pattinson had been diagnosed with the virus. So with Lucifer season 5, you know, with its finale and then going straight into season 6, this is subject to change. I don't want to sound like a party pooper or anything like that, but I do want to stress that despite protocols and preventative measures ever improving in the workplace, as what we're seeing with The Batman and other productions, things can be paused again for another few weeks. So always bear that in mind, but let's just hope that, you know, it's going to be fine. And yeah, Lucifer season 5 completes the finale filming and goes straight into season 6. But now onto the theory section of this video. I just wanted to include a few bonus theories because, as some of you may already know in my spoiler review, which check that out if you haven't done so already, I left some predictions for part 2 of season 5 there, but ever since then, during my live streams, often these days Lucifer gets brought up quite a bit. And big shout out to Iconic Reactions, aka Jalen, for mentioning these in the live stream, because that's when we got chatting about them. But I just kind of wanted to do a little bit of a deeper dive into them, because honestly, a couple of them I thought to be quite tangible and may very well come to fruition, not only in season 5 part 2, but possibly as a part of the ending for season 6 and the series as a whole. So the first theory, or should I say prediction, because at the end of the day, this is all speculation. I do want to stress that. So here we go. Maybe Dan dies and goes to heaven, and that's how he reunites with Charlotte. Now, this is very interesting. This is, some of you may be like, no, but think about it. What if they actually do that? And I'm not saying it's going to happen this season. It could happen next season, but it may very well happen this season, because I wanted to kind of, you know, dive into the Michael aspect of this. Michael, I know he's an angel, he's an archangel, but think about it. He was willing to throw demon blades at a human when time had stopped in that final battle. You could argue he just knew Lucifer would catch the demon blade, and it was just a distraction in the fight. But at the same time, what if Lucifer didn't make it? So he's perfectly willing to kill humans. And I do think that it would be one of those TV dramatic moments where it's like, it's towards the end of the series anyway, not that fans want this character to die, but if the series is ending anyway, maybe kind of give him a bittersweet ending where we have Detective Douche, or Dan should I say, dying with the context of, think about it, Michael is very unhinged now. He's always been motivated by this jealousy for Lucifer, but ever since he got the scar across his face, there's this grand plan of his that still hasn't come to fruition, and we still don't know what it is. Despite God getting involved, I wouldn't say it's just stopped there, because dear old dad has come in to interfere and stop the kids from fighting. I still think there's going to be some sinister, malicious, really evil intent there from Michael, and it wouldn't surprise me if somebody, or a human should I say, takes the brunt of that, and it would be very bittersweet. I think that's what I want to put on Dan's death. If we're just calling predictions here, it would be interesting. I don't want it to happen, but as much as I don't, I do feel like it would be an interesting choice. Ultimately, that is because he would die, but the focus and what we have to keep in mind here is that some of his best performances, I think, this season were before Michael came and visited him, when he was crying his eyes out, really breaking down from his optimistic ways that he's been carrying up every day until then at Charlotte's grave, and how much he misses her because he discovered celestial beings are a thing and that Lucifer is the devil. So imagine if he dies, I know I keep saying this, but to close it here, whether it's one of the angels, whether that's Lucifer or Amenadiel himself, just like he did with Charlotte, takes him up to heaven, to join her, and as a way they can be reunited. I know Dan's done some bad things. It was also mentioned in the live stream that surely his guilt from the bad things that he'd done would take him to hell, because that's kind of how it works. Your guilt keeps you there. But I do think they would kind of overlook that a bit with how he's trying to do better since then, and also just the amazing story point that it would be to have him reunite with Charlotte. So that would be really cool. I would love to know your thoughts on that. Another theory that I wanted to dive into: how would this all end? Like, let's just assume for a second Lucifer and Chloe, our end game. How will he settle down for the rest of his days? Well, the thing is now, guys, and I'm sure you're cluing on to what I'm about to say, is that they have introduced a way for these celestial beings, or should I say demonic, or just, other plainly beings such as demons, to give up their immortality. Granted, as I said, Lilith is a demon, the mother of all demons, but it does hint that immortality can very well be given up, as her immortality was put into Lucifer's ring. And now what if this means that Lucifer, towards the very end of this show, maybe it was intended for the season 5 finale before they rewrote it, and maybe intended to be stored away for season 6's finale. What if Lucifer gives up his immortality in a very similar circumstance to the way Lilith did, and at the end of the series, that is how he leads a human life, aging with Chloe? Now, I think that is very plausible. It makes sense. I think that does hint at a method to do that, because, hey, Lilith gave up her demonic immortality. Demons are immortal. Surely angels can do that as well. Now, some people may think Lucifer Morningstar would never do that, but at the same time, don't forget that this TV show is it's a very loose adaptation. So I think that they will bend it for the romantic kind of ways, especially when Lucifer has got past the self-loathing thing, because the reason why he didn't say I love you, like the showrunners went into this, is because how can you love somebody else or be truly ready to love someone else if you can't even love yourself? So I think once we get past all that development in part 2 and then throughout season 6, I think once all the dust is settled, he'll be ready to maybe give up his immortal soul, if you will, and lead a human life with Chloe. Even though it's hard to imagine Lucifer doing that because he's still the devil, but maybe. We'll have to wait and see, because otherwise he's going to be immortal forever and Chloe's just a human who will age. And that just seems like a tragic ending, if you ask me. And I do think that this is very, very plausible. And I think that Lilith giving her immortality up is a very huge hint of it, because don't forget that this whole series is about Lucifer growing, how much he has grown, how much he isn't like the devil. He despises the misconceptions of what the devil is supposed to be. He hates that. I think that this series will end with a fully explored story arc throughout all of the seasons, with Lucifer being the angel he was always meant to be, what God is intended and how God is proud of him, and all of the other angels as well, just like how Michael even got sent down this season because he couldn't stand the chatter from the other angels saying how proud they are of their brother Lucifer. So you get my point. This is why I think that could very well happen. Now, those theories I felt like could very much so happen. They still might not, but I feel like they legitimately could, and I kind of put a bit of a high chance on it even. However, these next couple of quick ones, I'm really not so sure. So for example, Ella finding out about Lucifer's identity, or just the celestial side of things at all, could be through God himself. Now, I'm not so sure about this, because God coming to the show is going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see how they explore him. It's a very risky thing to do, but either way, I think we're all thrilled at the sight of this even happening. So God, though, just going to a human and saying, we're real, Lucifer's the devil, like, it just doesn't make sense. It feels like there's lack of substance in terms of why behind that. However, I do think it's inevitable that Ella will find out. It would suck if she never found out and she was always oblivious. But if they could implement a storyline somehow of that it is God himself who tells her, that would be amazing. Or even if Ella doesn't find out that Lucifer is the devil and she just finds out about the whole celestial side of things through, I don't know, witnessing something that God does, that would be even better. I would rather see, I know I want to see, and everyone wants to see Lucifer and Ella have a conversation, all their cards laid out on the table, but Ella's always had a bit of a relationship with the big guy, so to speak, even not knowing if he's real or not, but having them two talk in the show, I think that's going to happen regardless. But it would just be amazing if somehow she indirectly finds out that God is a thing, even before Lucifer. As to how, I honestly don't know. These are just what a lot of fans are talking about right now. In terms of how will Maze get her soul, well, some people are talking about the whole immortality thing that I already spoke about, with how Lilith gave that up. That black element to the ring is Lilith's immortality. She didn't give up her soul, she gave up her immortality. And also, demons don't have a soul. Another popular way is that God himself has the power to do that. It could just be as simple as they write a conversation that Lucifer is having with God, and whether they're reconciling or this, that, and the other. He talks to God about it, and he literally can click his fingers, and he's the almighty God, so he could literally do that. So that is a way they could do it as well. I know Michael's promised it to her, but maybe that's because he knows he can whisper in dear old dad's ear, just like how we know from the series so far, he hasn't let any other angel have a direct line to God. So maybe he thinks he has some sway over God, in where he could have had the confidence to promise such a thing to Maze in giving her a soul through just asking Dad himself. Now, what about Trixie finding out? Because speaking of Dan, Kevin Alejandro, who plays Dan, as we've already been over in this video, weighed in on his thoughts about Trixie finding out Lucifer's identity, because some fans have indicated that Trixie may already know somehow, especially when bearing in mind that she was told the story from Lucifer Season 5, Episode 4. A lot of fans are now thinking as a result of that, she would have taken it more than just a story. Like, surely she's old enough to think that it was based on some kind of substance, especially in mind with how important it was to Maze to get that story. What if she already has a little bit of a sense that Lucifer is already the devil, but it doesn't really faze her? Now, personally, for me, it's a bit reaching, but let's hear what Kevin Alejandro has to say about this. I mean, that's, I think, a strong assessment. You know, children are known to have some sort of just this other sense before we're weathered and chipped away by life. So, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if she didn't know a little bit more than the rest. Now, of course, I would still take that with a grain of salt. I don't think that's him giving out any insider knowledge. I think that's just him truly just giving his thoughts on what fans have said and how it is a plausible theory. I mean, you never know. And we also have to take into account that Trixie is the daughter of Chloe, of whom is, of course, a gift from God, like a person who isn't even supposed to exist. So maybe there is, just like how some people were still speculating about Chloe, even though they kind of brought this up during the events of Season 5 with her saying, oh, do I have any powers or anything like that? It would be cool if there's some kind of weird properties to her that are still unbeknownst to her, or even Trixie where they have some kind of celestial radar or radio, like Supernatural. Not that they literally can hear angels or anything, but you know what I mean. But either way, my personal thoughts on this, I think that story was just a story to her. Doesn't mean that Trixie still isn't going to find out, but we're going to have to wait and see. She's not a huge part of the show anymore, and I do think at face value, her finding out, what would that really do, since she's not in the show too much anymore? I think it would inevitably happen towards the end, maybe. But other than that, I don't think it'll be a plot point that they kind of keep revisiting throughout Part 2 or even Season 6, even if she was to find out. Let me know everything you thought about in terms of what Kevin Alejandro had to say about the rewrite of the finale of Season 5 and Season 6 moving forward, the release date of which I think and hopefully will still be this year, especially if they're diving straight into Season 6 and they only have one episode to film for Season 5, and that is the finale. Hopefully that can just be quickly edited and put into it, if you know what I mean. And of course the theories, and feel free to offer your own theories in expansion to the ones I added in this video down in the comments below. But aside from that, guys, like this video if you did enjoy it, subscribe for more Lucifer videos just like this, and thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day, and I'll see you Lucy fans in the next video. Goodbye.